to the Codex Station's Comic Character of the Week. We are in the pre-show. I am your host, Sal the Slab Guy. As always, with me is Dan the Man Kelly, and down below is the Ric Flair of comic books.
Woo!
But we're missing someone tonight. Jamie, J-Dub, Mr. Bandana. He is absent tonight, but don't worry, we still have his information to show you guys tonight.
He was
What's
scared.
going on, guys?
Yeah, we've got his social security, his credit card, his address, his mother's maiden name, his passwords. Got all his info to share with you.
That's scarier than this Halloween show. See, it was Halloween, and he got scared. He was afraid of the Swamp Thing.
That's right. That's right. Hey, Gary, I was going to ask you, who are we covering tonight?
I'm not sure. Who could it be?
You should have been wearing that when we went live. You should have been wearing that.
No, I could still do it for the main show.
Yeah, he could do it for the main show because this is just the moment. The main show is forever.
Yeah,
this is the hors d'oeuvre.
The appetizer.
The appetizer. That's right.
Appetizer.
So this
should be a good show. Let me tell you, in researching Swamp Thing, there was like a ton of stuff I found that I never knew about the Swamp Thing. Ton.
It's been a long time since I've read Swamp Thing books. So I've read a whole lot the past week and a half or so. I went and had like a big long list, and I didn't even get through the list I had, but I went through a whole lot of stuff in his own titles and then stories that he was in other books.
Yeah,
he has gotten around.
Oh yeah.
The Swamp Thing likes to get around. Oh, look at the end. He's holding the book too.
Now look, that's my lower grade copy.
Your facsimile, right?
The 8.5, yeah. Facsimile.
Your facsimile copy.
Facsimile. I've got 10 of them. Facsimiles of mine. Oh yeah, they need to make a facsimile of it because of course I'll buy the shit out of that. My best one is a 9.4.
Very good.
So that's not bad for a 1974 book, right?
That's right.
Oh, Gary, right. I figure you would appreciate this shirt that I'm wearing.
I don't know.
I'm trying to make out what it is.
You can't.
I don't know.
I can't.
I'm not even going to try and describe it. Looks like some Japanese type of character.
It looks like a Japanese type of character or a
You don't recognize it?
I can't. No.
Imagine it as a tank top.
Jack Burton's shirt.
Oh, Jack Burton.
Yep.
Big Trouble in Little
China. My dues, and I said, "Mister, the check's in the mail."
In the mail.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The check is in the mail.
I got this, and my fantasy football team name that I've used for years is Pork Chop Express.
Hey, did you beat Jamie's team last week?
I beat the brakes off of Jamie.
Well, I have a buddy. I had a buddy of the Jewish faith, and I think he had the best name ever for his fantasy football team, the Hebrew Nationals. I thought that was perfect.
There's a team name that I don't like when people use. It's cool when they use player names as part of their team name, but not when they don't have the player on their team. Like Jamie's team name is Ridley Me This, but he doesn't have Calvin Ridley on his team. But the idea I was going to do, but I wasn't able to draft the players, is I was going to draft Jalen Hurts as my quarterback, and then I was going to draft the kicker for the Chargers, the rookie, Cameron Dicker. They call him Dicker the kicker. And then I was going to make my team name my Dicker Hurts.
My Dicker Hurts.
But I was only able to draft the kicker. Somebody else drafted Jalen Hurts, and it was ruined. So that's on hold until next year.
Hate it when that happens.
In the one league I'm in, that's a punishment league, my one buddy joined for the first time this year, and he was asking what the fees were, and I said, well, it's free. It's just whoever wins gets the trophy, and they can edit it however they want. Whoever loses has to do a bunch of punishments, one picked by each member of the other member of the league, and he goes, "Well, just so you know, I look fabulous in a dress." I went, "Well, you should make that your team name." So his team name is "Looks Fabulous in a Dress."
Wow.
That's funny.
But
That is,
the best one in that the best one in that league, my team name in that league is NFL Super Pro, and then I have the picture of Super Pro where he's kind of standing up like that as my avatar. And then there's one girl whose team name is First Down Syndrome.
oh, bad.
That's bad.
Wow.
But yeah, I beat Jamie's team 195-90.
I think Jamie needs to do some push-ups for that.
So I more than doubled his score.
That's a bad day
Come
at the
on,
office.
If you want to come in, you got to come in now.
That's why he's not here today. He didn't want to face you.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Well, he's lucky I don't trash talk him the way I trash talk my buddy Mike. I beat him in the one league, and I think I told you guys that's when I printed out the DeAndre Swift picture and I attached it to the score of the game and had it say "Sorry, bro" and mailed it to him. And then I put the return address as D Swift with the address of Lincoln Financial Field. And then when I beat him in the other league this past weekend, I took that, the Cookie Monster song, C is for Cookie.
Yeah.
I learned the chords of that and I sang that, but instead of C is for Cookie, I sang it as L is for Loser. L is for Loser. That's good enough for you. Loser starts with Mike Masabny. And that's his name. So I sent that to him. And then I told him next year I'm going to start another fantasy league for us to be in so that I can beat him in 3 leagues instead of just 2.
Oh, God.
Well, the good thing is you're not the type of guy to rub it in. See?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, no,
He's very professional about it.
For years, and we even talked about it before the season started. We're like, nobody trash talks in this league. He's like, we're the only 2 that do it. So me and him trash talk each other throughout the whole season.
Yeah. Well, that you've already got a plan worked out, so that's all right. You all had that as part of your.
Gary, got any action figures to share tonight?
I do. Trying to figure out how to put them right. Yep. And with the light, it's either put them on there, and then I have this one, which the mask is part of, is a San Diego exclusive, San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Exclusive, and it comes with 2 of the Unmen. Where's Cranius? Oh, here he is. Cranius is the best one. Look, a little
up low. There you go. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's the little head with feet.
He's the brains of the operation.
Yeah, he is the brains of the operation. So when Arcane, in issue 2, when Arcane was splattered along the rocks, along the mountainside, the Unmen, his little creatures he created, they went down and they retrieved his body and put him back together, and Cranius was leading the charge, but it didn't go so well.
Oh, yeah.
Put it back together. So, but that came with that mask, and that was part of this great box.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So it was, like I said, my buddy Howie, rest his soul. He's passed away. He got this for me in San Diego.
Do you and
the mask came in.
I was gonna say, do you have the old Ben Cooper Swamp Thing costume?
What's the Ben Cooper Swamp Thing costume?
No, remember those old Ben Cooper? It was the company Ben Cooper.
That
costume. Yeah,
we're like pajamas with a mask, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I do not.
The completely flammable ones.
No.
Where it'd be like, here's a plastic Spider-Man mask with a little string there, and then instead of like a Spider-Man actual costume, it's just like a shirt with a picture of Spider-Man on it.
Yep. I didn't realize those were called Ben Coopers.
Yeah, that was the name of the company that made them.
Is that going to fit you?
Just put it on in front. I can see a little bit.
You got to start the show like that.
Okay.
You have to start the show. So are we ready, guys, to start this show?
Yep.
All right, let's do it then. You'll see the countdown. Let me get rid of that ticker. And you'll have to forgive me for timing. All right, that's not it. This is the one right here.
Gary,
All right,
that
guys.
is creepy as shit. That's like
That's
Michael
creepy.
Myers-esque.
All right, here we go. We'll see the countdown.
Oh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Comic Character of the Week. Let me get this off of there. There we go. I'm your host, Sal the Slab Guy. To the right, or to the left of me, is Dan the Man Kelly. Down below is our special guest star, Swamp Thing. That's the character we're covering tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not Swamp Thing. Remove that mask there and show us who you really are.
Woo!
There we are.
There he is.
Woo!
It's Uncle Gary, the Ric Flair of comics, coming to you from the Library of Comics.
The Library of Comics. I love it.
I like that.
It is good. That is a good one. That is a good one.
I think was that Jamie that did that?
No, I think
Yeah.
that was Tim that said that.
Was
Was
it
it?
Tim?
I thought it was Tim.
I thought maybe Jamie said it the first time, but I could be wrong.
Let's give Tim the credit for that one.
I spent a lifetime of being wrong. Why change
guys-
it now?
Yep. How you guys doing tonight? You ready for a good show?
Yeah,
Great show.
ready to crush it.
Yeah, man.
Talk about one of my favorite characters. Top 3 for me. Probably
top
number
3.
2. Probably 2. Probably Aquaman and Swamp Thing. Yeah.
And how many copies of number 9 do you have?
There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. There's 5. This is my favorite cover of all time. There's 6. Oh, wait.
No, it's not his favorite cover.
There's 7.
There we go.
And there's 3 more scattered about this house that I wasn't able to collect. That I wasn't able to gather. But I have
They're in a secure location.
in a secure location. At this point, I have 10 copies. And that was an 8.5. And I also have a 9.4 graded. Dan has 1.
Nice.
You know why I don't have 11? Do you know why I don't have 11? Because Dan's got 1.
Because Dan's got one.
You
know what? I do not own a copy of it. Maybe
No.
I should pick one up.
Maybe you should. Maybe we'll have to see if Santa brings you one.
Oh my gosh, I've been a very good.
Oh no! If that's what we're going by, I'm gonna have to pick you up a coal something.
You'll pick me up a knockoff Swamp Thing, where it's
You know what?
It's Grass Man.
Dan can make you one.
Oh, okay.
Dan can make you one.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good. All right, so let's get some business out of the way. Let's first shoot over with the Codex Station, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, you can always find us on any of the streaming medias. Just type in at the Codex Station. You'll find us everywhere, whether it be YouTube, or whether it be TikTok, or Instagram, or Facebook. You can find us anywhere. Just like I said, use the at the Codex Station and find us there. Like I said before, I am Sal the Slab Guy. You can always find me on YouTube under Sal's Comic Corner. And I'm also on Instagram as the Slab Guy 77. And Dan, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Dan Kelly Art. I post art and music and writing on there. In fact, today I just posted a acoustic cover that I did of one of the greatest TV show theme songs of all time for the Fall Guy. That would be The Unknown Stuntman, originally sung by, do you know?
Lee Majors.
Lee Majors himself.
I did not know that.
Lee Majors originally married to.
Farrah Fawcett.
That I did know.
And
Well done, sir. Well done, Lee Majors.
But did you know that she also had it in her contract for Charlie's Angels at the time that she had to be done with her shooting date by a certain time so that she could get home and have dinner ready for Lee Majors when he got off work doing the Fall Guy and got home?
Well, at that time, he was proud. Was he doing the Fall Guy? Was the $6 Million Man over by that time?
When he was doing Fall Guy, I think.
With her, because remember, she was in the first episode of the Fall Guy, like right at the beginning of the.
Okay, that was that one. Okay, gotcha. Because I know because they had because they were together when he was on $6 Million Man too.
Yeah,
yeah,
and he and he sung the song, and in the TV show he played a guy that was a stuntman by day and a bounty hunter by night, and I mean you just don't get more badass than that.
I know. I do remember that show.
Colt Seavers.
Yes,
Yep.
it's such a great name. Anyway,
We're
it's
digressing.
it's a song that has been a staple of my acoustic live set for years and years. And then I was shocked when I was like, I haven't recorded this and put it on my Instagram. So I did that today. So go listen.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Go listen. Let me know what you think and what song you'd like to hear next or what art you'd like to hear next. But before you do that, check out what this guy underneath me has got going on. The man that is debonair, full of flair, the Ric Flair of comics.
Oh, I like that. Woo! That's a great introduction. That's why you are my road manager.
That's why I'm the Bobby Heenan to your Ric Flair.
That's right.
There you go.
That's
there you
good.
go.
Well, you can catch me at Comic Logic. I am a proud co-owner of Comic Logic, which is Loudoun County, Virginia's only comic book store. Please come by and see us. Every Wednesday, you can catch me there, get my weekly fix. We inject it right here in the veins, baby. 4-color ink right in the veins. We can talk comics, and we'd love to have you. This weekend, matter of fact, is we're having our big LotCon event, which we have twice a year. We turn our parking lot into a mini Comic Con. So please come see us there. It's from 12 to 4 on Sunday. It looks like we're having perfect weather. We'll have comics. We'll have vendors with comics. We'll have local artists, local authors. We'll have toys. There'll be jewelry. So a whole nice cornucopia of Comic-Con ideas and things and people. We'll also have costume contests, and we'll have trunk or treat for the kids. So, it's very family friendly. So family friendly that Dan and Sal are coming with their young ones. They're coming with their daughters. And that is a wonderful thing. So to have them bring their families there, and I believe Sal, your wife's coming too?
Yep, she is.
All right, very good. So it's a total family affair. Dan, I know your wife is traveling.
Sal's got to bring somebody to watch his daughter while he's digging through all the bins looking for.
I think I'm gonna let Dan look at it.
Looking for copies of Venom.
No, my wife is getting back from her trip Friday night, so I don't know if she's going to come or not.
Okay, well, love to have her. Love to have her for there. But anyway, it's family friendly. Please come see us, and then also check out all of us on the Comic Character of the Day site. Usually I post covers, but days like today, Dan helped me out and posted a cover for me because I got behind. But we all contribute to that site mightily. It's founded by our great buddy Archduke Kevy. And the reason that we have all met is through that site. So we owe a whole lot of gratitude to Kevy and that site. So please check us out there. My name on that site is I'm under the name Opie Taylor there. So please come see us. And now we can go back up to our leader here, our moderator, Sal, the slab guy, who this time of year sets his base of operations up in the morgue. That's where he originally became Sal, the slab guy. And now, this time of year, he revisits that, and he goes back to the local morgue, and he puts bodies on that cold table, and then he lays on it himself so he can feel what it's like to be a corpse. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, you don't realize that before he collected comic slabs, Sal was originally in the mafia, and he was called the slab guy because that's where he put people.
Oh, man. My goodness.
I'm not sure if you saw that picture. I got a lawn decoration of it looks like a body bag. That's tied up, a person in a body bag.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the last person that got touched a slab without my permission.
That's how those mafia types get rid of the bodies. They put it out as Halloween decorations. Halloween decorations. Nobody will know.
Nobody will know. Well, as you can see, we are one person short. Jamie will not be joining us tonight. He is having some internet issues. So hopefully you get that fixed soon, my friend, and get back online soon so you can join back in the fun.
Go sit in Starbucks. Go sit in
Starbucks
or McDonald's and
anywhere that's got free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I can see him doing the show at a McDonald's and then kick him out. That would be.
Get yourself a 20-piece chicken nug and a chocolate shake. Sit in the corner. Get that free Wi-Fi.
Yeah, talking to himself. He'd be talking to himself in the corner. I'm calling security.
That I can see. All right. So for this tonight, the intro is going to be handled by Dan the Man. So why don't you go ahead and give us the intro on this guy?
All right. So Swamp Thing first appeared in 1990 on USA Network, where it ran for 72 episodes. No, I'm just kidding.
Very funny.
I was going to say, what? That's
I
not
was
right.
late. Once he said 1990, I knew he was on a different train. Yeah.
No, Sandman first, or Sandman.
Sandman. All right.
Oh.
Now he's on a whole different. He's on a whole different. Another track now.
No,
Yes.
Swamp Thing first appeared in House of Secrets number 92 in July 1971, created by the legendary Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson.
Yep.
I'm not going to go with, it was a different character that was Sandman in that. And when he launched his own series, that's where, or Sandman, the Swamp Thing, that's where we got the Swamp Thing that we know. So that's what I'm going to go with for the origin, even though they're essentially pretty close to the same. So scientist Alec Holland and his wife Linda were developing a bio-restorative formula that was, the government was in high demand. And there was this gangster, Nathan Ellery, who was trying to intimidate Holland and get him to sell him the formula. And when he refused, he had his goons knock him out, plant the bomb in his laboratory where they were at in Louisiana. And when Holland came to, right when the blast went off, and it doused him in his formula, and his body caught on fire, and he ran off into the swamp, and his consciousness merged with the plant life to create a new body, and he became the newest in a long line of earth elementals that was in charge of protecting the green Swamp Thing. For his powers, he's the avatar of the green, and the green is the life force of all the plants on earth. He's pretty powerful. He can inhabit and animate vegetable, man, or plant life, anything, including alien plants, even sentient ones, all over the world. He can construct a body for himself. He can regrow damaged or destroyed body parts. He can transport his consciousness anywhere in the world and just regrow himself a body. He has superhuman strength. He has control of any and all kind of plant life. He's pretty tough pretty tough cat to kill. Someone you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, someone you do not want to mess with. All right, good. Excellent intro. All right, so before we kick off into the nitty gritty, we got to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is W Energy. And if you go over to www.w.gg and enter the word code -X, you can save 10% on that order. It's a good, clean energy drink. Everybody on the team, except for Gary, I don't think you've had any W Energy yet, but it is a good, clean energy drink. Everybody's had it and does rave about it. So
and
get on over there.
The only reason is because I'm a water guy. That's all.
He's a
drinking the water.
Water sucks.
You just take a little. All it is you take a little scoop of powder and then you mix it in with your big tumbler of water.
That's right. You can do it. I'm just doing the water boy for you. Water. Or you
could be like Sal and you could mix it with rum.
That's an after dark special. We won't talk about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, go on over to WGG and use the code word -X and save 10% on that order. All right. So, first part of our segment is going to be how this character works best. So, Uncle Gary, why don't you start off on this and tell us how this character works best for you?
Well, this character works best for me when he is. I think the archetype of this character when he first was created, he was the tragic man trapped within a monster's body. He was shunned because of how he looked, and he was disfigured, and he was our classic monsters like the Wolfman or even Frankenstein. What once was a man trapped in this shambling body. Even though Frankenstein, probably doesn't have very much in the way of intelligence, but Holland knew what he was. And, that was his curse, and he just wanted to regain his humanity. I like that tragic hero. It's kind of like Ben Grimm, right? Ben Grimm is trapped in that rocky hide, and that's the tragedy of, what he has to live with. Well, the same thing with Holland becoming the Swamp Thing. So when the Swamp Thing first came about, they didn't have where he was the avatar of the green. He was just one man that was transformed. When Alan Moore started writing the Swamp Thing Volume 2, he had he created the whole mythos of he was a plant elemental, and that there had been a long line of plant elementals all through time, and that's how he tied in the Swamp Thing from House of Secrets 92 to the Alec Holland one, that they were all part of a line of succession of Swamp Things. So that was kind of inventive. So I like the, you know, it's a tough call for me on which I like better. It's hard for me to go away from the original stuff, but it's two different versions of the same character. It's one is the man trapped as a misshapen monster, and the Alan Moore version is a plant that has masqueraded as a man trapped as a plant. So it gets really meta and really deep on there. But I see merit in both versions of it, and I'm good either way. But I really do like him as a protector of Earth's environment, and that he, he's he comes down hard on polluters, and we need an Avatar of the Green. We could use one now. So I like him best as an advocate for our planet and the green.
Okay, awesome. Dan, how about you?
Well, he stole my answer.
Actually, I think he stole mine as well.
I like him when he's involved in like the really horror type stories, not so much the superhero stuff, but the straight up horror stories, and especially the first series where it's like you get the real classic monster movie horror vibes off of it. Because the first series, to me, like, while it did have somewhat of like a running narrative, it wasn't really like, oh, here's this 6-issue story arc and this 6-issue story. Like, it was like each issue was kind of a self-contained series with a with a through line for what the characters were going through. But I like that where it was, like one issue where he's fighting like a Frankenstein's monster type character, and another one where he's fighting like a werewolf type character, and the whole time he's trying to come to grips with who he is, and that's how I like him best.
Okay, very good. I'm gonna have to agree with both of your points, guys. I'm first and foremost a protector of the earth and all life, as you would know, say it. That is like his first and foremost goal to me, I feel like, and that's what I like best about him. I do like the horror vibe, and if I have to really lean between the two, Gary, I think I like the man trapped in the plant type situation where it's the tragedy of that, where he's disfigured and had to adapt to a new form to be the creature or the protector that he is now. So yep, I like both of those, but I lean towards that one for myself. And yep, Dan, I do like the horror aspect of it. I don't like him too much in the superhero stuff, but that was part of my stuff that we didn't like about this character, so I'll save time for that.
Well, I was gonna say too what you were saying about the plant, the man trapped in the plant. It's like basically like the plant that kind of thinks it's a man. Then it brings up questions too of consciousness and like what does it mean to be human, and questions about like what a soul really is, and all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that Alan Moore is like one of those writers that's really good about delving into things like that.
Okay.
Well, Alan Moore had quite a bit of horror when he took over too, because when Woodrow, the Floronic Man, came in, he's calling people hamburgers and bleeding meat. Yeah. Oh my God, it was just, it was just really horrific. But Alan Moore took what was a small character, and like y'all were saying, I love we love the tragic hero because of the pathos in it, right?
Yeah.
Because that is just such a compelling narrative, But Alan Moore took what was a small character, the tragic man, misshapen, trapped in that body, and I too loved the horror aspects because you had an evil sorcerer, you had the Patchwork Man, which was a Frankenstein monster, like Dan said, you had the werewolf, you had a town full of machines, you had witches, you had the demon in the mine, you had an issue with an alien, you had a ghost story. Number 10 is one of the greatest ghost stories I've ever read of the original series. I loved that. But when Alan Moore took it and he supersized the character, I mean, it opened up so many other avenues, and so it really does leave me conflicted. But it sure is
It's
hard
okay to
to.
like them all.
Yeah, right. And I love both aspects of it, but it's hard for me to get away from the original. But the what Moore did broaden the horizons of what you can do with that character so much more.
Yeah,
I agree. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into our next segment, and that is with three badass moments. And I will start this one off. And for my three badass moments, I got the first one I have is Swamp Thing number 7. And let's see, Gary, do you think you can guess what that one's going to be?
When he
Swamp
kicked
Thing
Batman's ass.
Yes, that's it. Correct. So Swamp Thing finds himself in Gotham, and you know how Batman is about Gotham, and nobody comes into a city. Well, he was trying to pull that thing off on Swamp Thing, and Swamp Thing just goes bam, and he goes. I know you're very focused on your mission, but it could be so annoying, and he just knocks him straight out. And the next frame, Batman's out cold, and he's like, he looks at him, he's like, yeah, he'll be out cold for a while. So, all right, let's go on with my mission. That's how.
And
I
it was
thought
a
that
short punch too.
It was like a
Yeah.
what is it, the 1-inch punch that Bruce Lee does? The
Yeah.
1-inch punch?
And he's down.
Right.
He's out.
And he is out for the count.
Down goes Frazier.
So along those lines, let's see if Gary can actually figure this one out. DC Comics presents number 85.
That was with Superman, right?
Yep, that's with Superman. He's fighting Superman, and not only does Superman crushed like his arm and a leg, and he actually grew that back, and then Swamp Thing uses the green to calm Superman down and rocks him to sleep. Just like one of the most powerful characters in the DC universe. What do you do? Let's just rock him to sleep.
Well,
so.
Well, what he could do when you think about it, right? He's a plant. Swamp Thing could take over the Black Mercy and wipe out everybody, right?
That's true.
I had never considered that.
Yep.
I mean that think how powerful that is.
Yeah, that is very true. Very true. And for my last one, it's not really a scene perhaps or a badass moment, but it's a quote that comes from him, and I just love this quote because it just sounds badass when he says it. He goes, "I guard the green, the plant life of Earth. As long as it lives, I cannot die." And that screams badass to me. All right, Dan. So how about your three badass moments? What do you have?
All right, so I don't have the other than one of them, I don't really have the specific issue numbers on here. I forgot to put them down, so I'll put one of them.
Gary will know.
Yeah, probably. One of them is when he turned a man into a tree by manipulating the vegetables that he had in his stomach.
Oh,
the guy had in his stomach.
Well, I don't remember what issue is. That sounds like something Alan Moore would have done.
I think so, yeah, because it goes into how he can control any type, of plant life. Another one I have is when he had to regrow a body and he grew it out of a little bit of tobacco that Constantine had.
Wow.
And again, I forget the issue numbers. But the last one I actually do remember. It's from the story, one issue, My Blue Heaven. When he had the issue before, essentially been they thought he was killed, he was blown up, and he just sent his consciousness like across the universe, had it land on this uninhabited world where it's called My Blue Heaven because everything was blue, grew himself a new body, and then was just started exploring this world and decided he was lonely, so he grew himself an Abbey Arcane out of the plant. So then he's like, oh, I need this town, so he grew the entire town and grew the people out of it, based on the people that he knew. And then by the end of the issue, he'd realize these aren't really people, these are all just kind of hollow things that he's created, and he let them all wither and die, and then sent his consciousness back to Earth. But just you think about the amount of power that he would have, just send himself across the universe and then could essentially be like, could grow an entire world if he wanted to.
Right.
Yeah.
Almost reminds me like Ego the planet. It could probably grow a whole planet if you had the
Like
opportunity.
Ego, like Mogo. Apparently all the planets that are sentient end with O. So
Bingo.
yeah. So so those are my three. What do you got, Uncle Gary?
Yeah, Gary, what you got?
All right. So
Only three though.
Only three. I'm going to start off with a small moment, but it was a big deal at the time. So in Swamp Thing 5, he's made his, he's in New England, and he encounters a brother and a sister who have witch-like powers, and the townspeople are coming after them, and he is protecting them. And one of the townsmen cuts off his arm with a scythe, and the arm grows back. We had not seen that before. So when you look at everything Swamp Thing can do, that's no big deal. But that was a big deal because we had never seen that before. That
And
he gets his arm.
He could do it.
Didn't know he could do it. So his arm's cut off, and this is, of course, in Volume 1 in the Len Wein, Bernie Wrightson issues, and it starts to grow back, which was, it's such a great scene, such a great sequence. And down the road, that arm that was cut off, it grew into another Swamp Thing, and it became known as the Mirror Monster, but it was a Swamp Thing that was totally mindless. It had, because it didn't have Holland's aspect in it, and that, I think in issue 20 they dealt with that. But it was just a small moment to have it cut off and then to have it grow back was so cool. So my other one is in Brightest Day, they bring Swamp Thing back. And so where Alan Moore had, in his version, Alec Holland was dead. And that the swamp, when the Swamp Thing was formed, it tried to form with the essence of Holland, and it was a plant who thought it was a man, but was really a plant. And it was this whole trippy thing that he went on. In Brightest Day, that Swamp Thing that Alan Moore had created was inhabited by Necron, and was trying to kill, everything that was living. It was a Black Lantern.
Right.
So with the White Lantern, they brought Alec Holland back from the dead. And Alec Holland was the only thing that could beat the Black Lantern Swamp Thing if he would agree to become a Swamp Thing. And Alec Holland made the sacrifice and agreed to do that, and became the Swamp Thing. So now I guess the current canon is Alec Holland's the Swamp Thing, because I don't think that has been retconned. So Alec Holland, this was a way to bring him back. He's agreed to become the Swamp Thing, and he kills the Black Lantern Swamp Thing. So that was badass enough. But he is now regrown all the devastated areas of the Earth that had taken a hit through the events of that comic. And in the final scene, there is a board of directors meeting of a bunch of energy moguls that are polluters, and they're talking about, well, we just have to start moving our toxic waste sites now where they can't find them, or there'll be consequences. There's a plant in the office. Swamp Thing comes out of the plant and said, yes, there will be consequences, and he kills them all.
Nice.
Just kills them. So I mean, no ambiguity there. He killed them. So that was pretty badass. Killed the polluters.
I guess that was kind of their way of like combining the original version of the character and the Alan Moore, because it's like, okay, well, it's like the original version. It's really Alec Holland in this monstrous body, but he's also the avatar of the Green too. And
right.
So here's a way to combine them, which I mean, it's really smart to do.
Well, who wrote it? Jeff Johns. Right?
Yeah, I mean, nobody handles classic characters the way.
That's right. So that was another look. Jeff Johns is the guy that gave us the Stroke of Genius that the yellow impurity in the Green Lantern ring was parallax.
Yeah.
I mean, that was brilliant. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
Why? Why? I mean, it's so stupid. Why is it impervious to yellow? Well, he gave you a great reason why it was impervious to yellow.
Yeah, and then it
So-
explains. Oh, yeah, that's why Hal started having the white streaks in his hair, and
Yep.
why all this happened. It's like
Make him start doubting himself.
like that, he took all he's great
Yep.
at taking all these little bits of story that don't seem to have any have any real connections, and then putting them together, and you go, oh yeah, of course, that's
Right.
brilliant.
He thought about it and gave you a plausible explanation. So this was his way of putting Alec Holland back into the swamp thing, So I like it. I think it was pretty inventive. My third is in the New 52 Swamp Thing. I really like that series. We went 40 issues, and there were some great battles where here we had the Parliament of Trees that we had known, and Swampy's the avatar of the Green. But then we got into a great crossover with Animal Man and Archduke Kevio like that, where he is an avatar of the Red, of the flesh and blood of the plant life, and they're battling the Rot, which is Arcane was the Rot. So really great. Where it's kind of actually I think it's kind of similar about all the different lantern, all the different color lanterns. So all these different, the Rot and the Green and the and the Red. And toward the end of that series, they introduced the Kingdom of the Machines. The Kingdom of the Machines are going to wipe out all life, right? It's just going to be machine life, AI, Skynet stuff, right?
Well, yeah.
In the final issue of it, in the final issue, the Swamp Thing totally depowers the avatar of the machine, and he destroys it and puts its essence into a little mechanical cat. And the little mechanical cat he has with a cord plugged into a wall. And he says, now I could have destroyed you, but I don't believe in killing children, and you're still an infant. So there's still time for you to figure out what you want to be. He goes, there is your way back into the world. And he points to, I guess, where a USB jack, right? Isn't that what you put?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not a tech guy, but I understood it to be the thing you plug the computers into, where you plug into the world, where it's not a prong plug, but it's that little thing like you used to have on the phones and all that would go in. But the wall jack, because that's your way back into the world. When you're ready, you go ahead and do it, but I will be watching. And if you abuse it, I will destroy you. So I just thought that was a cool little moment where the machines had risen up to where they were a threat to the Rot, to the Red, to the Green, everything living, because everything that lived or fed off of living, because there's no use for the Rot if everything is dead. So it was a threat to everything. And then, Swamp Thing doesn't kill it, but he depowers it massively and gives it a warning. I'm not into killing children, and you are an infant. But when if you abuse this, I will come back and get you.
I'll be back.
That kind of mirrors real life when who was it? Which company was it that made that AI and they put it live on Twitter and then they had to shut it down after a day because it came to the conclusion it's like we just need to wipe out everybody, and it's like, all right, you're done.
Look, listen, this AI stuff scares the hell out of me every day, right?
Oh yeah.
These people need to watch the Terminator continuously on a loop. They need to watch it on a loop. So Skynet is real.
Skynet's bad. All right. So let's move on to our next segment, and our next segment is what we don't like about this character. What critiques or criticisms do we have? And Dan, you can start this one off.
All right. First, I'd like to say hi to I don't know how to pronounce the name. They're on here on the chat. The Sang-Ho Kim.
Sang-Ho Kim. Yep.
I don't understand. It's just a bunch of random letters that they're sending through on the chat. But thank you for being.
It looks like you did say. Looks like you did try to say hi. So
yeah. Anyways,
Well, hello to you. Thanks for joining.
yeah. Anyway, so for criticisms, I kind of mentioned earlier, I don't really like when he gets involved in the superhero stuff. Like, it's kind of natural for him to do stuff with Constantine because that's where Constantine first appeared in his book, and Constantine doesn't operates better outside of the superhero realm himself. But I don't like, it's cool to occasionally see him like, oh, it's him with Batman or him with Superman, but like I like him best, like I said, where it's the horror type stuff, not when he's involved in these big superhero crossover things. Like I get why he's in there, and he's got to be because of who the character is, as is this Avatar, the Green. But I like it better when he's kind of away from that on his own thing.
Okay. I'll go ahead and go next, and I pretty much echo what you just said. I don't like him in any big superhero team. I actually don't like him in any team up except for Constantine. And I have that story Green Hell, which was a perfect combination of those two, which we'll dive into later. But I always felt he's a solo type of character and not part of the big epic events unless the epic event is like completely life world threatening type situation. Then of course him being the protector, he would jump in on that. But any other big epic events, I don't think he just wouldn't fit that well because I feel like I don't know. It's like he's part of the swamp, or he's all over the place. Anywhere he can, there's a plant, So there's no really any way for a bad guy or a person that wants to take over the world to combat him. It's just there's no way. You might destroy him by fire, but he's popped up over here, and okay, we got to go destroy this version of the swamp thing. But now he's popped up over here, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's almost that powerful that maybe the writers haven't figured out a way to give him an arch nemesis that will be his antithesis. Maybe I'm wrong. Uncle Gary knows one that it is.
It's kind of like what we said with the Spectre. Like he's so powerful that it's writers don't really know what to do with him with an ongoing story. It's like just have him show up at the end and like lay the final beat down. I mean, Swamp Thing's had some cool stuff. There was that Superman annual where he shows up and like helps take whatever the Kryptonian stuff out of Superman and like regrow the Kent farm and the stuff with Batman occasionally. But I don't like I don't like him in the big superhero team ups.
Yeah, okay. All right, Gary, why don't you go ahead?
Right, I agree with that. Even though he's perfectly suited to be in Justice League Dark, I don't really enjoy him there. And they're drawing him like he was Ross the Swamp Thing too. I don't know that I particularly love that look for him, but I think he doesn't interact with the other heroes unless it is a big, giant, earth-shattering event. I know he's helped Batman when Poison Ivy has gone bat blank crazy, where she's off the reservation and he's had to bring her back down. But when it's I like him best when he's with Abby, he's in the bayou, he's minding his own business, he's watching out for the Green, and then he comes out when there's some great big earth-shattering crisis coming on where he will deal with the other heroes. As far as you're talking about an adversary for him, Arcane is his big adversary. Yeah. It's it's Abby Arcane's uncle, and he, in the second issue of the original series by Ween and Wrightson, he was a wizard that wanted to trade places with Holland because he thought as the Swamp Thing he could be immortal, and he was an old, withered old man, and so he was going to trade that, and through magic he gave Holland his body back. And there's a great scene where Arcane transforms into Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing transforms back to Holland, and he's got everything he wants, but then he realizes what Arcane is going to subject the world to with this powerful body. And there was like a vessel, I think it was like some kind of base that had the energy in it, and Holland breaks it and reverses the spell, and Arcane is livid that he has done this and taken the power from him and reversed that spell. So so Arcane hated him for that, and then when we next see him in Swamp Thing 10, his body is really misshapen now because with in issue 2, he ultimately did fall to what you thought was his death down the mountainside, but his unmen came back and put him back together, and they didn't do a really great job. So I posted a couple days ago on Comic Characters Week that great cover of Swamp Thing 10, that long angular figure he's fighting. That's Arcane, and then his unmen are with him. That's Arcane, and then
I'll have to check that out.
That is a great story. Dan, have you read 10?
I haven't gotten up that far.
It is a great ghost story, and I don't want to give anything else away. So it is maybe my favorite ghost story I've ever read in comics. So it is pretty awesome. So Arcane was dispatched there. There was even an instance where Arcane was sent to hell, and Abby's soul was dragged to hell too, and Alec had to go back to hell and get her soul out, and he runs into Arcane, who has got all these fly eggs on him, and they keep hatching on him, and it's just this grotesque hell. And he asks Swamp Thing, how long have I been here? This agony is going on forever. How long? And Swamp Thing says, yesterday. Yesterday. Just real. But to make Arcane more powerful, or to make Arcane, with Swamp Thing becoming an avatar of the Green, he's become so much more powerful than the original incarnation of Arcane. So when they made Arcane the avatar of the Rot, then that really increased the power level of Arcane quite a bit. So he is a formidable adversary, because the Rot, plants rot, the rot,
everything rots.
And the fungus and things like that, that is an adversary to all plants. So of course that is something that can hurt Swamp Thing, as it can hurt the Red too, because the Red and the Green had to fight the Rot. So Arcane, as an avatar of the Rot, is an adversary that gives Swamp Thing all he can handle.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right, so now moving on to our next segment is top covers. Which of you fine gentlemen would like to go first for top covers?
I mean, it's got to be the Man Below.
I'll do it. So, for my first one, it was kind of be a gag, but now everybody knows the gag. So.
There you go. There's no gag. This is your top covers. This is what you sent.
Yep, there you go. Not only is that the best Swamp Thing cover ever, that is, in my opinion, it is not in my opinion because it's a fact. It is. I'm not saying it's the greatest cover, but it is my favorite cover, which is a true statement. That is my favorite comic cover of all time, bar none. It's powerful. You can just, I look at that cover and I can hear it. I can hear the water splashing out of the bayou as he comes out of it. It is just, it is just in full motion, everything. I can almost smell the moss in that swamp and the bog.
Swampiness. The swampiness.
But
all right, well here.
So that one is, of course, would be on my list, but as a gag, I put that with all three there. But I added three others just to show that I could find others, and I almost put them all Bernie Wrightson. So the one that's to the left of the screen is House of Secrets 92. Which is the very first appearance of him. That is also, for you comic fans, the gal in the cover was modeled. He used for a model was Louise Jones, who now you would know as Louise Simonson. So they all lived in the same building, and they were all close friends. And so that was her there in that cover. So a great comic writer has got a great comic cover of her, which is pretty iconic. And that cover, the House of Secrets 92, I have a beautiful copy of it that you gentlemen have seen. So that's one of my cherished possessions. The one in the center, you have to look carefully because it is a dark cover, but I think that is just amazing. That is Swamp Thing #3 by John Totleben, and it is 93, and it is just so. I love the shadow of it. I love how he's in the bog and you can barely see him, but there he is peering out at you. So I love that tremendously. And then the last one is Brightest Day, the aforementioned Brightest Day 24. It's a Gary Frank cover, and I just absolutely love it. I think that's a wonderful Swamp Thing, and with the you can see there he's an avatar with the White Lantern on that.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. So, Dan, let's go ahead and jump to your covers here.
Well, Swamp Thing number 9 did make my list. It was gifted to me by Uncle Gary, which is you can usually be seen even when we're not doing Swamp Thing episodes in my comic rack, because it is just it's exactly what he said. It's a fantastic cover. It's very dynamic. You can almost hear him, like you said, coming out of the water. You got the bayou behind him. For me, it was a close choice between number 1 and number 9 of this series, because I feel like the covers are somewhat similar.
They are, yeah.
And they would look really good together. And I originally was going to have both of them on here, but then I was like, no, I got to just pick one of them. And number 9 I like better.
That is a correct choice, Dan. That is the right choice.
Thank you. I'll go straight to the one on the end, which is Swamp Thing number 13, which is it is just an absolute fantastic cover where you see him coming out of the grave, and it's got that real monster look to him. The creepy with the tree in the background, the gravestones, kind of falling down, the fog. It's just such an amazing cover.
One of my favorites. That's Nestor Redondo.
Yeah, who took over after Wrightson left,
and he did a pretty good job too.
Yeah, he did. I mean, at first glance, you would think that is, his covers are Wrightson covers. And then the middle one, while it's Saga of Swamp Thing number 20, it's the first issue of Swamp Thing that Alan Moore wrote. While at first glance you're like, all right, it's an okay cover. To me, I picked it because that was, when I was a kid, that was the first issue of Swamp Thing that I ever got. And unfortunately, I don't have the copy of it anymore, but for years, I had it, and it was very beat up and very well worn from being read and reread and read again. So for me, whenever I think of Swamp Thing, that's the first cover that immediately comes to my mind, because that was the first one that I bought. So I had to put it on the list here.
We're very worthy choice.
And honestly, as a kid, I didn't know, I didn't know the significance of it. Like, this is who Alan Moore is, and this is him taking over the series. Like, I didn't know that. It was just like, oh, what's this cool book?
Well, that's when Alan Moore really hit the big time, is through Swamp Thing. He was known with his British work there, but in this country, this is the book that put him on the map.
All right, cool. Excellent covers. I guess I will show mine, then we will jump to Jamie's, because he did still submit information. Here are mine.
Oh, great covers.
I went with Swamp Thing number 5, where he's just fighting the guys off. It's got the almost like the creepy graveyard type feel to it again. It's got the creepy tree in the back with the girl tied to it. It looks like it's like a lynch mob that he's probably saving the girl from. And
she was a witch.
Oh, she was a witch. Yep.
Right, and that's where he got his arm cut off.
There we go, and that's where it grew back. So yep. So that's just looks like a badass cover to me. So next one up, we got looks like Swamp Thing number 46. It looks like this is by Alan Moore, and it has Batman, the Phantom Stranger, and Hawkman in the background, and he's stepping on a crocodile, or look like maybe a dinosaur type of creature. It's just a pretty badass moment where he's just kind of standing. He's got the full body effect there. He's showing you all the vines and stuff that are growing out of him and stuff like that. That is pretty badass to me. And the last one I got is Swamp Thing number 16, and it looks like a sorceress or a witch is ordering minions to attack him, and he's just coming at them. And then, of course, you got the police in the background as well, coming out from the other side. That's like a classic horror motif type of cover to me. So that's why I went with that one.
Like it. That's also Nestor Redondo. Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's jump to Jamie's covers and show what he has chosen. So he what looks like some recent stuff. He also did the Brightest Day 24, like
A
you.
very rare instance of Jamie picking a cover that someone else picked.
I know. It's very true. And then we got in the middle there, Swamp Thing number 4, kind of like almost like your other cover, Gary, where he's just peering
Yep.
out from the woods, where he's just peering up out of the water here, like he's
It
just
is.
like sneaking up out of it. And then it looks like the Swamp Thing number 3 from Brightest Day Aftermath, and we got Dead Man in there. We got Constantine being like pulled in to
Yep.
the Swamp Thing. I think someone used this cover for the Constantine cover. I forgot. I think.
Do you know what Constantine's connection is with Swamp Thing's daughter, Teffy?
No, what's the connection there?
Abby wanted to have a child, so Alec, the plant, wasn't able really to conceive. So he was able to possess Constantine's body and use Constantine's body as to have sex with Abby to impregnate her.
Wow.
So they have history, and Constantine reminds Alec of that, or the Swamp Thing that, and he doesn't always enjoy that. Though Constantine does not have any memory of doing the deed because he was possessed.
Okay, very good. Let's go over there and on to our next segment. Our next segment now is going to be the essential readings. And Uncle Gary, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with your 3 essential readings?
Okay, so my essential.
Hold on 1 second. I should pull those up.
Oh, wait a minute. First, I want to show something for Dan. You said 1 and 9 would look good together. You mean like that?
Yeah, something like that. Actually, I think it would look better if you, because it's almost like he's popping up out of the water looking at himself.
Yeah, look at that.
But if you look at it like the way the backgrounds are and the way the water is, it's very similar. It's almost like the same cover from 2 different
angles.
Yeah, like the number 10 is the angle that's facing him, and the number 1 is the angle from behind him.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that was something that was intentional that Wrightson did or not.
Nice.
You know what? It sure could have been. So my essential reading, the first thing is you got to read the original, and that's Roots of the Swamp Thing. And see that? That's one of my prized possessions. That's signed by Bernie Wrightson.
Nice.
To me.
Awesome.
So, Roots of the Swamp Thing.
Do I pull up your readings?
Please do.
Yeah. Okay.
What it's going to do for you, it's going to give you House of Secrets 92, which is that first 8-page story. And that story that had Alex Olson as the Swamp Thing, it was just a little story they had done in that House of Secrets, and it was kind of a gothic nature story, and it was a tragedy, and it was a wonderful story, and that book sold out, and DC was clamoring for Lynn Wein and for Bernie to do a sequel. Well, they thought they had written pretty much the perfect little story, and they did not want to do a sequel. So they had to think long and hard on how they would do it, and that's when they came up with the idea of modernizing it, because the other story was set kind of during Victorian times. So they modernized the story, and they with Alec Holland and the biorestorative formula and all that in present day. So that's where they came up with the other Swamp Thing. But you're going to get that original story in House of Secrets 92, which you have to get that way because the book is pretty pricey. So that's the way to get it. It's through a collected edition, and it's also going to give you Swamp Thing Volume 1 through 10, and those are the 10 issues that Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson did together, and they are, again, they have all the classic monster archetypes in it, and I do believe that whoever did the Incredible Hulk TV show of the 70s, where it was the man, again, the Hulk is the same thing. It's a tragedy. The man trapped within the monster's body, and he's moving from town to town. He's on the run. There's no place to call home. The Swamp Thing is just trying to get back to Louisiana, and the episodes are like that. And I believe that whoever was writing the Hulk series had some influence. It was influenced by the Swamp Thing series because the tone was the same, where he was just always just trying to get back home or find a place where he could be, and that's to him was get back to the bayou. but you'll get those 10 issues again. You got the werewolf issue. There's an alien issue. There's a ghost story issue. There's the demon, a Lovecraftian demon in a mine shaft. So you get all these wonderful monster archetypes, and in some volumes of this, you even get issues 11, 12, and 13, which were also written by Len Wein, but illustrated by Bernie Wrightson. But you mainly want to make sure you get House Secrets 92, Swamp Thing Volume 1, number 1 through 10. Those are the classic stories with the classic art that launched this character. Now, my second reading is the complete Alan Moore collection, which is going to be Swamp Thing 20 through 64. And this is what the issue 21 is, one of the most famous issues ever. It's called The Anatomy Lesson. And that is where they break down that Alan Moore created a Swamp Thing that was a plant that imprinted that it was a man. So it was, it was really trippy, and it was an amazing issue. And his entire run was groundbreaking. And during that run, John Constantine is also introduced. So that's another thing you get in that run, is the introduction of John Constantine. And then
very clear from his introduction who they thought should have played him if he was ever in live action.
That would be Sting. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the last one, the New 52 Swamp Thing. I forget what volume it is offhand, but it's you want issue. It's volume 5. Scott Snyder and Charles Soule wrote most of those, and it deals with. I talked about it before. It dealt with, he's the avatar of the green, and with the avatar of the red, Animal Man, they're fighting the avatar of the rot, Anton Arcane, through most of it. And then toward the end of the series, he has the great fight with the avatar of the Machine Kingdom. So I just thought it was very inventive. It was a really good series. Ran 40 issues, and then that was the end. It stopped. It was the book ended after 40 issues plus the 0 issue, but very well worth reading. And they added a whole lot of new. This is the first time you see Swamp Thing grow the wings, if you've ever seen that version of him. So that was pretty cool too. So those are my recommended readings.
Okay, cool. Awesome ones. All right, Dan, how about you? Let's go ahead and show yours.
Well, I counted up the issues that Uncle Gary had, and by my count, that's 96 issues to read.
There you go. And that's not even enough.
Yeah, so mine, if you look at mine, is essentially the same as his without the New 52 thing. But I have, to start out, Swamp Thing Volume 1. I put issues 1 through 13 because, Wrightson did, he did only draw up to number 10, and then it was Nestor Redondo that took over after that, whose art was good, and it was very reminiscent of Wrightson. Like, it was clear that they probably picked him either because he could draw like that, or they told him, try and draw like Wrightson. Yeah, and it's reminiscent of it. It doesn't really have that same magic, but it's still good. But I picked 1 through 13 because those are the issues that Len Wein wrote, and he left after 13, and David Michelin took over. But yeah, that was the version of Swamp Thing that I enjoyed most, where it was like the classic monster type of stuff. And to understand the character, you absolutely have to read that. It gives his origin. It introduces all the these important characters to him, like Abby Arcane, and like he said, Gary said, her uncle, and Cable, not the one from from New Mutants.
Right, Matt Cable.
Matt Cable, yeah, it introduces like all these very important characters to him, and it introduces them there. So
you ended up in Sandman.
Yeah.
As a Raven, a Raven of all things.
So it's an absolutely fantastic series. Next, I had the Anatomy Lesson. It was from Saga of the Swamp Thing 21. It's the second issue that Alan Moore wrote, and Gary described it pretty well. Swamp Thing actually isn't even in it that much. It's really more of a story of the Floronic Man, Jason Woodrow, who gets
Yeah.
after they get Swamp Thing's body where they think he's dead, his body's kind of frozen, and they have Jason Woodrow come in as the Floronic Man, and on release from prison, and is basically dissecting him to tell them what the deal is with him. And I put it on here because it really shows what it's where it really starts to get into what Moore was going to do with the character, what his ideas for him were. But it shows, where he's talking about like, all right, he's got these lungs here, but they don't function as lungs because he doesn't have to breathe. But talking about all these internal organs that mimic in appearance human organs, but don't really function that way because they don't need to. And it's to really understand how the character is set up for his run. That's an issue that you have to read, and it's got some good horror stuff, especially with what Woodrow does to the guy that's essentially his boss, his keeper, while he's on release from him. It's pretty dark,
very dark.
Yeah, and then I have American Gothic, which is the Saga of the Swamp Thing 37 through 50. It's you get it as a collected volume where it's a bunch of smaller arcs that kind of combine into this one larger arc, and that's where Alan Moore really kind of introduced what Swamp Thing is as we know him now. It's the first appearance of Constantine. It builds up to this big issue 50 thing. So if you want to know how Swamp Thing came to be as he is most commonly known, that's the story that you have to read. And I have another one that I would drop that almost made my list that I would drop as a bonus one, but I'll wait and see if Sal and if Sal or Jamie has it on their lists before I say.
All right, very good. Good stuff. Let me go ahead and bring up mine then. Boom! There we go. Of course, I got Swamp Thing Green Hell, but I'm going to circle back to that one.
That one's.
We're going to start with We're going to start with the other ones first. I went with Swamp Thing, the Bronze Age, Volume 1, because it has the original, the House of Secrets 1 through 13. These guys have already delved into this one so much. I just have to can't really say too much more to that. This is definitely a story you want to check out for his origin and a lot of the early Swamp Thing lore. So next one I have is Swamp Thing from Volume 3, which was 2011 to 2015. Roto World, The Green Kingdom. This also has some Animal Land action in there as well. So this is like there's the Buddy Baker and Swamp Thing. They form an uneasy alliance after facing down undead forces from Anton Arcade, of course, and they decrypt the future where the world's been consumed in withering land and decay. So the two heroes travel to the decimated planet, scrounging up misfit crime fighters whose appearances and histories have been changed by this new hellscape. So it's a pretty cool story to read and worthy of checking out. And of course, for my last one, we've got Swamp Thing Green Hell 1 through 3. This was a miniseries which was excellent. It was Black Label, so it was out of the continuity, but in this futuristic storyline, the Rot, the Red, and the Green had all teamed up and said, you know what? Humanity's had its chance. We're wiping them out. We're going to take them out. And they formed, the Green forms a Swamp Thing monster to wipe them out. And lo and behold, Constantine is there, and he goes ahead and he yanks in Alec Holland from a different universe here and says, you got to help out. And of course, him being the Swamp Thing, he connects to the Green, and he at first kind of sees their point of view about humanity's had their chance. It's time for them to wipe out, time to wipe them out, and then all of a sudden he's like, no, we're not going to do that. Humanity's worth fighting for. It's more, I guess, because of Alec Holland being human, his human side was prevailing on that situation and came out. But this is definitely a great story to read. This was brutal. It was graphic. It is not for young readers whatsoever.
Oh no, it's definitely not.
It's definitely not for young readers because they show the slaughtering of humans in there that are just, oh god, like Hellraiser-ish type of slaughtering. It was nasty.
Pure horror, baby.
Pure horror at its best. But this was an excellent story. It is still available to be picked up easily and not too expensive either. Even Uncle Gary's shop probably has it in stock
Yep.
right now. And I think didn't they come out with a trade of all three?
Well, they came back
a
with a hardback.
hardback of it. Okay,
Yep.
awesome. So that's available as well. So this is definitely a story you want to check out if you want to see how the rot, the red, and the green actually interact. And that was something I learned when I read this story about. I knew about the red. I kind of understood the rot, but it was they dove into these a little bit more, and it gave me a better understanding of what these were, were how it relates to Swamp Thing.
The art by Mankey was amazing.
Oh, the art by Mick was
Oh
amazing.
yeah, I mean his stuff always is.
And
Yep.
and I believe Lemire did the writing of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Jeff Lemire. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to Jamie's recommended readings. And of course, he has Swamp Thing Volume 7, the whole volume. Thanks, Jamie, for the details on that. Appreciate it. And then he has Dark Knight's Death Metal. I wonder where the Swamp Thing was in that one. I don't know. Remember that him being in there.
Briefly, well,
Interesting.
yeah, he was in a little bit. The Swamp Thing Volume 7, I believe, is the volume that Ram V just did.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was pretty interesting. It was a new take on it. It was a different man. Levi became the Swamp Thing.
Gotcha. And then for his last reading is Brightest Day, The Search for the Swamp Thing. Cool. All right.
I was going to say I'll throw in a bonus one too.
Throw a bonus one in.
Almost made my list. It's and it's one of the ones that's up here behind me, the Swamp Thing Winter Special.
It's very good.
Yeah, the artwork in it by Jason Fabok is just spectacular. I mean, his artwork always is. And I know it's odd for me to pick a Tom King story, be like, this is good, but the story's really good with Swamp Thing trying to protect this child, and it's in this like desolate winter wasteland, and then he is starting to realize that everything isn't what it seems. It's a pretty tragic story, so that's really good. But the other thing that's great on it is Len Wein had started writing another Swamp Thing miniseries, and he died before he was able to finish the first issue. So what they had from the first issue, the way that he would write is he would write the whole first issue, like basically the descriptions and everything for the artist so they could draw it, and then put the dialogue and stuff in after that. So he had the whole first issue written, just the stuff for the artist, but died before he could write the dialogue. So they had the artist. I forget who it was now. It was I forget who the artist was off the top of my head. So what they did was they took his script and the artist that was going to do the book with him and had him draw, do the art for the whole issue, but then they left it all silent because they said, well, he didn't get to finish it, so we're not going to have anybody else come in and do dialogue over top of this. So they put that in the winter special too. And I thought that was like a really classy thing for them to do, because they could have easily just said, oh, he died, it didn't get finished, so it is what it is. But they said, we're going to present his final work to you as best we can for what he intended.
That's cool. All right, well, this is a great segment to our next segment, which is Best Artist and Author. So, Dan, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with that then?
I mean, for artists, it's easy. I mean, it's Bernie Wrightson. I mean, there's like I said, Jason Fabok was really good, but that was like one issue, and Gary Frank had that really cool Brightest Day cover. That was one thing. There was I don't know how do you pronounce the last name? Veitch, yeah, Veitch. Who had that was who was drawing Swamp Thing when I first started reading and when I was growing up. So I always remember that. But I mean, Bernie Wrightson, other than just being the one that co-created him, like his artwork is, we all know that Gary loves Wrightson. That's his favorite artist. His artwork is beautiful. He really captures the man monster aspect of it, and like the backgrounds he draws, the horror stuff is perfectly suited to him. The stuff that he has there, it's just gorgeous to look at. So that was I mean, that's one of the easiest choices I've ever had doing any of these shows. It's like, oh, Bernie Wrightson. For writer, it was a little tougher because, like I said, while I prefer the way Len Wein wrote him, where, in that first series, I still had to give it to Alan Moore just because of all of the stuff that he introduced with the character. And he took the character and, completely flipped it and did a lot of different stuff with it, but did it in a way that didn't necessarily contradict what came before, but just built upon it, had some really interesting ideas, and gave us the character that, that everybody knows since then, because he did this in the early 80s, and this is what the status quo of Swamp Thing has been for decades now. So even though I personally prefer the way Len Wein wrote him, I had to give it to Moore just because of that influence.
Yep. All right, very good. Uncle Gary, why don't you go ahead next on this?
Well, I'm with Dan. The artist is a slam dunk. It's Bernie Wrightson. I mean, yes, I'm biased because that's my favorite artist. But his work on Swamp Thing, the way he draws the character, it's just the most amazing version of it. And look at all the homage covers that are done, because of these other great artists do. Jim Lee, Alex Ross, they've all done these great Swamp Thing covers as an homage to what Bernie has done. But when we talked about the other one, the spread of there's a full page werewolf spread in issue 4 that is just drop dead gorgeous.
Oh yeah, that one in Scotland. That's so nice.
So all the other monsters that he drew in there were so amazing, and he's like the perfect horror artist. And he, I like color comics, but Bernie Wrightson's the guy that could draw black and white, and I don't care. That it's just pencils and inks, and I don't care. It's that good. So yeah, slam dunk with Bernie. I also had the same dilemma Dan did with the writer. I have such deference for Len Wein for creating this character, and I love those first issues that he and Bernie did together so much, and I love the original story. But because, like Dan said it very eloquently and very perfectly, because of how Moore expanded the character, and because that's he took what was a monster, a tragic monster, and a wonderful character, but he just supersized it into the avatar of the green, the fact that he can expanded his power base where he can grow in a plant all the way on the other side of the world, and put his consciousness in that, and just the whole creating the Parliament of the Trees, and everything that he did has set the stage for all these other kingdoms. I mean, he didn't create the kingdom of the red or the rot or all that, but none of that would have been done if Alan Moore had not created him being the avatar of the Parliament of Trees. So what Alan Moore set in motion was a whole giant chain of events that have enriched this character. And I do enjoy what Jeff Johns did when he brought it back in Brightest Day, where he put Holland back into the Swamp Thing. And like I say, if that hasn't been retconned out now, I think that's pretty cool. But as much as I want to say Len Wein, and it hurts me, but I have to say Alan Moore.
And you can't go wrong with either one, because
you can't.
There's such different takes on it. But like I said, like we both said, like Moore took what Len Wein did, and he didn't contradict it. He just was like, "Hey, how about this? Would be cool if we did this." And you're like,
he supersized it.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, it's one of the, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yep.
All right. Well, I hate to say this, but both of you guys are completely wrong. And for my choices is Bernie Wrightson, and Len Wein. 100%. No. I agree with you guys. I think Bernie is the slam dunk for the artist. Len Wein and Alan Moore. Yeah, it's a tie for first for me. It really is, for exactly the reasons you guys have stated. I don't know. Len Wein's got Len Wein. Gosh, I can't.
Len Wein.
Len Wein for the very creation of the character myself has so many bonus points right there. But then
Right.
Alan Moore's like twist to it, not twist, but the expanding of it. It's just so incredible. It's amazing. So I got to give it to him as a tie. I'm sorry, I'm doing it.
You know what? I'm
Alan Moore's
okay
a tie.
with that. I am okay with that.
It's a tie. It's a tie, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
How great
Very
would it have
good.
been if the two of them had like teamed up on a Swamp Thing story?
Oh, I know that would have been wild.
I don't think I don't think Alan Moore plays well with others.
No. Or even better yet, like when Len Wein did Giant Size X-Men #1, how cool would it have been if he was like, "Hey Bernie, you want to come draw this?" Because Bernie was great at horror, but you look at it too, you're like, if he had chosen to do superhero stuff, it would have been fantastic. I mean, he was perfectly suited for horror, and I think that was his strength, but he could have done some really great superhero stuff.
Did I tell you all the Russ Braun story?
Yeah.
Russ Braun, who I have this wonderful Swamp Thing, Man Thing, Battle of the Bayou that he did, in that's original piece that he had done. Russ Braun. Oh yeah, the Russ Braun. You interviewed him. You know the Russ.
Yeah.
Go.
That's a tease. If you want to know what Uncle Gary is talking about, you go and find the video that we did from Baltimore Comic-Con this year, and you will hear the story straight from Russ Braun himself.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely
synergy happening right there.
There you go.
I'll say this though. If one writer I think would be really cool to do something on Swamp Thing, who I think would pull some crazy stuff out, is I think Donnie Cates. If he was writing the book, I think that that he could come up, with what I've seen him do with even on his more recent stuff like Hulk and Thor and some of that. Like I think he could come up with some pretty cool stuff to do, and I think the artist from the bulk of The Walking Dead, Charlie Adler, I think he'd be a pretty good artist to work on Swamp Thing too.
The Philip Kennedy Johnson, who's writing the Hulk right now, when I read issue 2 of that book, the horror aspect of it, I texted him. I said, man, Bernie Wrightson would have loved to have drawn that book. And he said, man, that is the highest compliment you can give me. And so I think Philip Kennedy Johnson could have done a great horrific Swamp Thing with the horror aspect.
And you know what? They're both still around, so
yep.
You hear us? You listen to us, DC? We're giving you gold here.
Make it happen. Make it happen.
I mean, I don't know about Cates, but Philip Kennedy Johnson, you've already got him in house.
I've had him in the house. He's been in the library right here, fellas. He's been here.
He's right there.
He's right here.
That's true. He has been in the Library of Comics. He has been.
Yes, he has.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think this wraps up our session tonight for Comic Character of the Week, Swamp Thing. Thank you guys. Dan and Gary, you guys had great input. And even Jamie's input was well, even though he was missed. Not so much, but he was missed. And we
I do want to know who he would have picked. I do want to know who he would have picked as his top writer and artist, because knowing the contrarian that he is, I'd be interested to know who he would have picked for him.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so to round this out, let's go ahead, Dan, and tell everybody where everybody can find you at.
You can find me on Instagram at Dan Kelly Art. I post art, music, writing, though not as much recently on there. So go check it out. I posted just a few days ago doing this Power Girl sketch cover, and I can't decide what pose to do. So I posted a rough sketch of 6 different poses. So go on there and check the post out. Give a vote. Let me know which one you think, and I'm going to reveal next week which one is the chosen one that I'll be putting on the cover.
Cool. Can't wait to see that. All right, Uncle Gary, where can people find you at?
Every Wednesday, you can find me and my little friends at Comic Logic. My little friends at Comic Logic. I am one of the proud owners of Loudoun County, Virginia's only comic book store. If you're in Northern Virginia, please come see us. You can catch me there every Wednesday morning, getting the comic book 4-color injection in my veins, getting it, got to get my fix. And we are having a big event. We have twice a year, and this is our fall lot con, where we turn our parking lot into a little mini Comic Con. There'll be comics, there will be toys, there will be local artists, local authors, there will be jewelry, there will be family-friendly things. We will have a trunk or treat for the kids. We'll have a costume contest. So please come with your family. This is this Sunday, October 29th. 12 to 4. These gentlemen here that are with me on Comic Character today will be there with their families, so you can come see them, come see me. We'd love to have you. Yep, absolutely.
Now we'll autograph your slabs for you.
That's right. That's right. And so come see us there, and then catch all of us on Comic Character of the Day, our wonderful site started by Archduke Kevy, where we all post material every day, and we're intricately linked in that site. That's the reason we're all here together, is because we made acquaintances with one another on that site. So got to give that some love. And back up to our wonderful host, our moderator, the man who's kept the train on the tracks all day, Sal,
Trying to.
fresh from the morgue, the slab guy.
Well, folks, you can always find me on YouTube under Sal's Comic Corner, and you can also find me on Instagram as the Slab Guy 77. But you can also find all of us now on the Codex Station. You can find us if you go into any streaming media service and you type in at the Codex Station, you'll find us. And there's all different types of shows with all of us going on. Please check us out. Give us a like. Give us a share. Subscribe. Leave us some comments. We're over 1,000 members. We're just keep growing. So come join in the fun. Click that like and join in the fun. All right. And that does it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys all, including you, Swamp Thing, have a 9.8 day.
Happy Halloween. Woo!
Happy Halloween.